Good morning. Hey, this is Dr. Kempton with the Dr. Kempton Show. And we're going to be on YouTube. We're going to be on different programs. So this is one of our first shows. In fact, this is the first show since we left KINA, where I had the Dr. Kempton Show for, 400 shows. In fact, the microphone that you see here is from Randy, who was on the show with me. It says Dr. Kempton Show, 400 shows from 11/13 to 6/21. That was a long time. I had a lot of fun. I was with Scott, who started me off on the radio. Then Randy, who kept me going through the years of radio, and the guy who really put it all together and made it all sound good and equal. And that was Sam. And to the Three Musketeers, thank you very much for giving me my start in the radio business. So just to let you know a little bit of what's going on, this show is going to be about health, freedom, what's going along around in the community, what's going around in the state and the country, and maybe a little bit about the world. So it's going to be my thoughts on all the things that I want to talk about. So let me get you started on how this all started. I'm a chiropractor. I just retired. I've been in practice for 44 years. I started off and practiced with my father, Dr. C.B. Kempton, in Pratt, Kansas. I worked with him for, oh my gosh, it had to have been 2, maybe 3 of the longest weeks I'd ever spent working with anybody. My dad and I we were great together. We couldn't work together. He wanted his practice, I wanted my practice, and we couldn't quite make that gel, so we were too much alike. And so I left. I went to him one day and I said, Dad, I got something I want to talk to you about, and I don't know how to say this. I said, I think I'm going to go out on my own. He started laughing. He put his hands on my shoulder. He said, oh my gosh, Doug, you don't know how happy that makes me feel, because I was going to hate to fire you. So I left. I went through the United States, through Kansas, looking for different places to go to, El Dorado, Chanute. Went down the southeast corner. Then I traveled west, Greensburg, on out west and around the area out that way. Kind of went up towards Dodge City, Garden City, then come back towards Dodge City. Hit Hayes, hit Russell, and dropped down and hit Great Bend. I couldn't find anything. So I kind of thought I had something out in Hayes. So my mom and I drove out to Hayes. I was looking at some places right down in the center of town. In fact, it was right next to the movie theater downtown. And they had a good place down there. And I thought, I think I could live in Hayes, Kansas. So we got back and got in the car. And I remember Mom saying, well, let's stop back in Russell again, because she liked Russell. So we drove through Russell. And I stopped, and we went up to the A&W there, and I had a A&W float, root beer float. There's very few things that really, really beat that. So we stopped there, and Russell just didn't have the feel I wanted. I'm glad I didn't go to Russell, because some people that I know moved to Russell, and very good chiropractors. So I'm glad I didn't move there. Not to the competition, but two great chiropractors in a town makes it kind of tough. So anyway, being one of the greatest chiropractors in the world, it was tough. So anyway, so she said, let's give a call to one of Dad's friends, one of Dad's chiropractic friends. And so we called a chiropractor in Salina, Kansas, and I'm going to say his name is Dr. Pennington. Old man Pennington, as people started talking about him. So Doc Pennington, good friend of my dad's. I'm a good friend of his son. So we called, and I remember talking to him, and he's he has very colorful language. So I said, Dr. Pennington, I just graduated from Palmer College, and I'd like to go out on my own. So I thought I'd give you a call. Oh my gosh, he says, we need another chiropractor here in Salina, Kansas. Get your butt down here. Now, if anybody knows Dr. Pennington, old Doc Pennington, that's the way he talked. A very, very straightforward, straight shooter, really, really great guy. So I got in the car, and I'll be honest with you, I did not. There's two towns that we didn't want to go to. Concordia, because that's where I kind of grew up, and my granddad was there. It would have been nice, but it's hard to go back to your hometown, and I always felt like Concordia was my hometown. And I didn't want to move to Salina, Kansas, because my grandfather had stories about when he was in high school, how he used to play Salina and the rivalry that was there, and the station, the Air Force base that was here, and all the problems. He goes, boy, you never want to go to Salina. So I grew up on don't go to Salina. So I drove through Salina. I came in on the west side of town, drove in, and it just felt right. So went down, talked to Dr. Pennington. He says, you need to look at a couple places, and this is going to be a great place for you. So I decided this was the place I was going to be. So actually, I shouldn't say that. This was not going to be the place I was going to be, because I was still looking. I was looking at a place in Hayes, looking at a place in Great Bend, and I was looking at a place, and just got through looking at a place here in Salina. So I remember kind of decide maybe Salina, wasn't sure, so I thought I'd look for some places. So I remember walking up to 225 South Santa Fe and looking in the window. So I'm looking in the window like this, trying to see what it was like and envision a chiropractic office in Salina. And this guy came up beside me, and he's looking in the window too, and I kind of looked over at him, and he said, this is the perfect place for you. I said, well, how do you know? He says, I can tell. I said, well, you think it's good? He says, yeah. He says, well, what are you going to be? I said, well, I'm a chiropractor. I'd like to open up practice. He said, oh my gosh, this is the perfect spot for a chiropractor. In fact, Dr. Pennington, who just moved to a new building, he said he just had an office right across the way, and this is a good spot. In fact, if you want to find out how good it is, you need to go talk to the guy who used to own this place, and that was Mr. Carroll's bookstore. So I went across the street later on and talked to Mr. Carroll, and we kind of hit it off a little bit, me being 23 and him being a little bit older than that and knowing the ways around. So he said, if you decide on it, come back. So I went back to Great Bend, looked at it. It didn't have the feel that I wanted. Went out to Hayes, and the place I wanted to get, they just rented out. So I lost those two places. So went back to Salina, went over and talked to Mr. Carroll, and he said, here's what you need to do. And he walked me through how to open a business. Now, the guy who said I was going to make it in Salina was Sandy Sanborn. And Sandy sold houses. He was a realtor. And I looked at him, and I remember talking to him afterwards, and I said, Sandy, let me ask you a question. I said, do you think I can get this place? He said, oh, yeah, the bank owns it. You need to go talk to them, go talk to Mr. Carroll. And I went back. So I said, well, what's in it for you? I said, do you own this place? Do you rent it out? He said, no, I don't have any, anything in the game at all. I said, well, then what's in it for you? He says, because you're going to buy your house from me. And Sandy Sanborn was 100% correct. I bought 3 houses from him, and also bought the land at 1027 the Midway, where I built my clinic 5 years, about 5 or 6 years later. found it, built it, and he helped me do with that. So, Salina gave me what I really wanted, and that was a lift up, a home feeling. And one of the people that helped do that for me was a lady named Barb Graham, and she passed away. Probably one of the hardest things till today that affects me. And Barb Graham came into my clinic, and I worked on her, and she would tell me if I was doing a good job or a bad job, and she would tell me that she was going to help me out, and she sent me, I bet she sent me over 100 and some patients, new patients. And if I started getting too full of myself, she would sit down and let me know. And when I got depressed, she could find out, and she would come down to the clinic and just talk to me. But it was always enjoyed seeing her come into the office, and she and her husband helped me tremendously. Now, through the years, there's been a lot of other people that have helped me out a lot, and I can sit here and name names all day long, but that's how I got started in Salina, Kansas. Salina, Kansas helped me become the chiropractor that I am today, and I'm blessed by God that the other places didn't work. They weren't meant to work, so I came to Salina, and that's where I stayed, and that's where I've flourished and had a fantastic practice. The next big thing is, how the heck did I get on radio? Well, I used to give lectures and help other chiropractors with their business, with their technique. And so I would travel throughout the United States, and I would give lectures on the philosophy of chiropractic, how to manage a chiropractic office, how to talk and react with your patients. And then I worked on technique. I would help fine-tune other chiropractors' technique. So one time during my lecture that I was talking about, I was asking people, well, how do you get patients? One guy wrote a book. I'm working on that. I've been working on that for 25 years. Another guy said, he does newspaper, and I was doing newspaper. And one of the other guys, really nice guy, saying, well, I'm on the radio. I've got my own radio show. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. Maybe I could do a radio show too. So I kind of prayed about it. Now, it wasn't a prayer, as in I got down on my knees and said, oh, God, I need a radio station. It was more like, hey, if you open things up for me, I'd love to have a radio station. God and I kind of talk a little bit that way. So, I do pray, but he's in my life all the time. So we have a kind of a one-on-one conversation. I verbally talk to God, and he shows me through his actions that he's listening and got my back. So, and I am okay with that. So I did this for about a year, maybe 2 years, and I would talk about, this is what I'd do if I had the opportunity to have a radio station, and nothing ever came about. In this meantime, I remember I was asked by a church that was non-denominational, and they asked me if I would be a speaker because I had given sermons at the church that I was going to, and they found out about that. So they asked me if I would come down and give a sermon at their church, and I did. And the sermon was, "Are you strong enough to receive what you pray for?" And that was the sermon. Now, I'm going to step out of this a little bit and tell you a story about the sermon itself. So I stand up there, they introduced me, and I walk up and I said, "Are you strong enough to receive what you've asked for?" And these three little ladies right in the front were sitting down on the pew, and they all went just like that, just. And I thought, oh my gosh, I haven't even started yet. I've already put them asleep. And so I was a Baptist at the time, and I'm beating the Bible down, and I'm saying things, and I'm clapping, and I'm walking back and forth, and I'm just trying to wake these three ladies up, and they are out cold. And man, my whole drive is to do this. So and one of the worst things you can do as a preacher is go over the time limit. And I went over the time limit, and people are starting to fidget, but I cannot wake these three ladies up. So I give up. They win. So I finally finish my sermon, have a prayer, amen, and they kind of wake up and look up and smile, and they walk off. And the lady who hired me came in, and she gave me my honorarium, and I said, I've got a question. She says, well, first of all, we'd like to have you back, but you can't go over. If you go over one more time, you're never coming back. Okay. She said, well, they didn't go to sleep. I said, what do you mean they didn't go to sleep? She said, they always close their eyes and pray for the person up doing the sermon. So they were praying for me. They weren't sleeping. So I gave back the honorarium, but that leads into the next part of the program, and that is when I was in the office one day, and I was working on one of my patients worked at the radio station KINA, and she gets a call, and she says, I have to take this. I said, no problem. We had her on therapy, so we got the therapy around. We moved it so she could talk and still get her therapy. And she was sitting there talking, and she goes, oh my gosh, no way. Not even. They didn't even give us 3 weeks or 2 weeks. No, she's going to quit now, today. She's got a radio show coming up, and I was listening to this, and I had a flashback about what I told this congregation. Are you strong enough to receive that what you prayed for? So she got done. I said, what's up? She says, I've got a Sunday show that this lady's done for years, and it's already booked out, and she quit. This is on a Friday. And I said, and I remember going, oh my gosh, can I do this? Do I want to do this? It's so easy to say no. And I said, well, I can do it for you. And she said, you'd do it? I said, yeah. I said, I'd do it. So she said, okay, well, it's going to be Sunday. Can you be at the radio station at this time at 9 o'clock? I said, yeah, I'll be there. She says, you need to be a little bit early. I got it. I'll be there at 8:30. So I said yes, because God finally opened the door. And when he knocks, you got to open the door. And when you open the door, for God's sake, either let him in or walk through the door and join him. And so that's the whole thing. It's your conviction of what you're going to do. And when they come, when God opens that door and answers your prayers, man, it can take you back a little bit. So I went down to the radio station, and while I was down there, Scott took me through the whole ropes. We got the first show. I've got all the shows taped, all 400 taped, because of Sam. He put them together for me, and so we may be putting little parts of that in our podcast that we've got going on. But just to let you know, we're still here and we're still active. So I went down the radio station. I sat down with Scott, and we started going, and I had my notes, and I'm all set, and we're geared up, and he does a great job of introducing me and keeping things rolling, because I was terrible at it. But anyway, so I go at one of the breaks, I get ready to leave. He goes, where are you going? I said, well, half-hour show. I'm done. He goes, it's an hour show. I said, an hour show? I don't have anything else to talk about. And if I play part of that, you're going to find out I really didn't have anything to talk about. But we had a good time, and he got me over a lot of me being afraid of talking to the microphone, slowing down my ums and ahs and all the other words that people use to like that, those type of things. So I've slowed those down a little bit. You're going to catch me now again But it was a great time. And started off, like I say, with Scott. Then Randy came in, and I think Sam's always been behind the scenes a little bit, but I remember him working with us behind the scenes, making sure everything sounded good. I probably need him on this show eventually, but eventually he joined the group, and there was the three of us there. There was me, there was Sam, and there was Randy. But it was a good time. So that's how I got there. And I guess one of my messages for you is if you pray about it, and you don't, it's nice to get down on your knees once in a while, but just have a conversation with God. And sometimes, almost all the time, you'll see the answer come in the actions that happens. So you can speak and let him do the actions, and of course, what you have to do now after that is make the actions. So that's how the Dr. Kempton Show started. Moving to Salina, asking for a place to move to, found Salina, and then found the radio station. And it was time for me to walk away. And about the time I walked away, I retired, going to start the podcast. So it's all good and going. So this is what we're having fun doing. And we eventually will have other people on the air. I hope to have Sam beside me sometime, and I hope to have Randy beside me a few times. And we're going to have a lot of fun enjoying the next chapter of the Dr. Kempton Show. So if you enjoy the show, hit the like button, subscribe, and we're going to have hopefully one a week coming out towards you. How about to you, so you can listen, have fun. And if you got some comments about what you'd like to hear about in the future, please let me know. And I'm trying to end it like I used to, but I can't because I don't have any call signs. So this is Dr. Kempton with the Dr. Kempton Show, coming back to you one more time. Take care, and may God bless.